G'day and welcome to Videodrome Cinema. I'm here again with the top 10 interesting and fun facts about the 2002 Spider-Man. Back in the day, in an interview, Hugh Jackman actually said that there was talk that he was going to do a cameo in the film. He went to the set, he was there in New York, but then Sony ended up not getting the rights from Fox to be able to use the Wolverine costume. Originally, the studio wanted Leonardo DiCaprio or Freddie Prinze Jr. for the title role. They both said no. Later on, there was talk about Josh Hartnett playing the role. He didn't take it either. They had auditions with Scott Spiderman, with James Franco, but the role didn't end up going to them, but to Tobey Maguire. Sam Raimi said that it was Tobey Maguire's role in The Cider House Rules that convinced him. Before taking on the role, Tobey Maguire didn't read Spider-Man comics. He was convinced to take the role because the script caught his attention. When Sony started with the project, there was a couple of directors whose name they were throwing around. For example, Tony Scott, James Cameron, Roland Emmerich, and even Ang Lee. But because they couldn't actually get any of them on board, they even spoke to Chris Columbus, but he ended up not taking the role so he could direct the first Harry Potter movie. Then they asked David Fincher, who was excited about the project, and he even had a pitch idea for Sony. In his version, the origins would have been just at the beginning of the film in a flashback mode, and the actual story would be the night Gwen Stacy died. In the end, Sony didn't end up liking David Fincher's pitch. They ended up turning to Sam Raimi, who got their attention, besides being a famous director, with the fact that he's actually a huge comic book fan, and he has more than 25,000 comics in his collection. After the 2011 attacks on the Twin Towers, the first posters to go out had to be recalled because the two towers could be seen reflected in the Spider-Man's eyes. And Sony wasn't able to collect all of these posters. There are a few out there, and they're worth a lot of money. The scene in the film when the New Yorkers throw rubbish at the Green Goblin, that's tied to the terror attacks as well. Because the director kind of wanted to show how New Yorkers stick together. Despite the fact that Spider-Man is actually like an iconic New Yorker, most of the scenes were actually shot in Los Angeles, and they only actually spent 2 weeks in New York. Originally, the costume for the Green Goblin would have been more muscular, but Willem Dafoe wanted to actually do all of his own stunts. So he asked for the costume to be more tight-fitting so he'd easily be able to move in it. And when Norman transforms, the smoke that would be in the lab was supposed to be green. They ended up having to do this in CGI because they couldn't actually produce a type of visible smoke that was green that didn't end up being poisonous. The film made $39.4 million on opening weekend. This was a record at the time, which was only actually broken by the opening weekend of the second part. And then it was broken again by the third part. There's a bunch of cameos in the film. Bruce Campbell, who's a friend of the director's, isn't it? And Stan Lee, of course. Nicholas Hammond also makes an appearance, who of course is the 77 Spider-Man from The Amazing Spider-Man. Another favorite of the director, Lucy Lawless, also makes an appearance as a cameo. She, of course, was Xena Warrior Princess, which Sam Raimi was one of the producers for. Back in the day, the effects used for the film were new and inventive. When the studio saw the finished product that already had some CGI on it, they actually thought that in all the scenes that it was Tobey Maguire in a costume. A lot of different actresses auditioned for the role of Mary Jane. Mena Suvari, Tara Reid, and even Kate Hudson. The studio wanted her in the role, but she ended up not taking the role, so she could be in The Four Feathers. Elizabeth Banks originally auditioned for Mary Jane's role, and then she got Betty's role, based on her positive audition. In the first script draft, they actually had Dr. Octopus in the film, but then Sam Raimi ended up deciding that with the origin story, it's enough to just have one villain. They came up with a new camera system specifically for the POV Spider-Man shots that they ended up calling Spider Cam. For the first film, they only used it for the last scene, but for the second one, they used it a whole lot more. The actual specifics of the camera is that it can travel a huge distance in seconds, all the while taking focused pictures. So these are the 10 interesting and fun facts I found about Spider-Man. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like, come back and visit us soon, and subscribe so you know when we post new videos. Thanks, and goodbye.